what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Beyond the Beret, where we find folks that done incredible things, share their stories with you in hopes of inspiring the next generation. Right? So today I have Dave Harris, a former third grouper. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we'll get right into it. Dave?
Yeah, so my name is David Harris. I'm retiring. Actually, at the end of this month, I'll be done with the Army, 20 years in. I did 3 years in 82nd, crossed over after doing a tour in Iraq with the 82nd, crossed over, became Green Beret in about 2008, and I did 16 years in third group. I did 6 on the white side, Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion, and then I went and did 5 years, 5.5 in the CRIF over there before the CRIF was disbanded or whatever this is now. And then I became an instructor as a FOWF in third group for my last 4.
Okay, awesome. So Dave, what we'll do just to give you some, just to give this some structure, like we'll start from the beginning.
Okay.
Because my biggest thing with this channel, like I want to show guys how they coming from wherever it is, whether it's New York City, Nebraska, Oklahoma, upbringing, none of that matters, right?
Okay.
If you want to go to selection, you want to make something out of yourselves, like, hey, there's folks that's been there, that's done it. So starting off with where you come from, you mentioned that you're from Oakland. How's growing up in Oakland?
Bay Area, so so I say Oakland because a lot of people don't know Richmond, California. It goes Oakland, Berkeley, Richmond. That's where I'm from. It's a bad area. It's not the best. I grew up running the streets a lot, not going to school much, doing a bunch of stuff like that. And then luckily for me, when I got to high school, because I wasn't even really going to school much, when I got to high school, I started playing basketball, and I loved basketball. And I'll tell people, basketball saved my life, man. Like, I played basketball, and I wanted to play pro basketball. Didn't make it, but I wanted to play pro basketball. And for me, they said, hey, to play basketball, you got to have a 2.0, which meant I had to go to school. I had to go to class. And since I was in class, I might as well do the work. I never was stupid. I just didn't go to class. So then I started doing the work. I got good grades, played basketball, and then went to college in Silver City, New Mexico, Western New Mexico University, Division II for basketball.
Nice.
And after that, I joined the Army.
So you finished college, I take it?
I was almost done.
Okay.
I was almost done, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make it to this pro thing, and I told you the only reason I'm going to school is to go pro. So the hell with this. I'm going to the Army. I'm tired of school.
So what happened with your pro career? Were you not getting scouted, or did something happen to where you were like, man, this isn't going to work out? Or what? I guess what made you change your mind from doing basketball and just saying, hey, Army?
So I was playing in high school, and I was traveling, and I had played against guys like Drew Gooden and met Gilbert Arenas and all these dudes who became NBA players and all-stars and stuff. And throughout high school, I realized there was different levels. and I wasn't on that level. And here's the thing, if I would have been, like I told you, so my father when I grew up in Oakland during the crack epidemic. So my dad got hooked on crack. And I didn't have a father figure, and my grandfather kind of filled that role. So I'm a typical, I would say, not to be, but I'm a typical urban kid, and urban's a different way of saying it. I'm a typical urban kid raised by a single mom whose grandparents had to, we lived with my grandmother and grandfather who raised me. And my mom had me when she was 18, so she still was young doing her thing, and I guess drank a lot and was still trying to party because she had never lived that. So I grew up without really a father figure to be like, yo, I tell my son now, he's like, hey, I want to play basketball. And I'm like, listen, bruh, look, you're going to be built like your dad. I'm 6'2", 235. Should have played football. And I'm like, I did a lot of work in basketball and practiced a lot of hours, and I still only went D2. So that tells you how much, hey, that gap was huge. And I could play with them, but I wasn't on that I wasn't on the pro level. And then when I went to Division II, I was playing there and everything, and I was like, I'm going to be honest, I'm a simple brain guy, man. I was sitting in my dorm room, and I was watching the movie Black Hawk Down, and I said, I'm going to go do that. And the next day I got up, walked down to the recruiter, was like, hey, I want to do that. And he was like, okay. And I was like, Don't have to convince me. Don't need to talk about it.
I'm ready.
What do I need to do?
Yeah.
And he told me, and I was like, hey, like I told you, my mom was young, so it was either I could have went overseas and played basketball. Mm-hmm. But it was either go home and play overseas and have to live with my mom.
Yeah.
And I hadn't lived with my mom since I was 17. My mom lost her place when I was 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I didn't have a father figure. So I kind of was out on my own since 17. So I was at 21. Yeah. And I was like, look, man, I ain't lived with you since I was 17. You ain't going to be putting rules on me now. Yeah. I'm just going to join the Army. Yeah. And I joined the Army. And that's the rest is history, man.
Now, because I always ask folks, like, hey, what made you want to join the military? And a lot of folks will say a movie. So in your case, Black Hawk Down.
That was the movie.
My case, I just got tired of being at the house.
All right.
So I dipped out. Now, were your folks supportive? Your mom, your grandparents, were they supportive of you joining the military? Or was it you convincing them that, hey, I'm going to do this regardless of what you think?
I would say no one even knew. Okay. By the time they found out I was in the Army, I was already done with basic and AIT. Okay. Like I came home on leave and I was like, yo, that's the deal. Mm-hmm. This is what I want to do. I'm big on like just, hey, this is pick your path and go your path. Gotcha. And that's kind of how I've been about everything. Like I said, I'm pretty simple when it comes to thinking. So it's not like everyone kind of like, hey, I put so much thought into going SF and I put so much thought. And you're going to probably ask that, but my thoughts have been real like, hey, will you let me deploy when the war's over? Yeah, let's try it. I can keep going. I can keep deploying and doing stuff when we're not at war no more. Yeah. All right, that's something I want to do. Like,
certain things have to be kept simple.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's how I think.
So college wasn't working out. You joined the military. Before we get into the military, because I think that your upbringing is similar to a lot of folks out there that look like you and I.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you had to share any type of message with the 17-year-old Dave Harris that's currently watching us, what would it be as far as growing up in a single-parent household, wanting to go pro, that not happening, and then they're just in the slums or they're trying to figure out what they want to do? What would you share with that 17 or 18-year-old currently watching us?
I would tell them, change your perception on what success is. And what I mean by that is, I think as African American or urban inner city people as a whole, doesn't matter about race, it's more about money at that point. Urban inner city people that are at a detriment, I would say change your perception on what success is, because most of us are looking at quick money, sports and rapping or drug dealing or something like that to make money. And once you change your perception on that, then you can understand like, hey man, you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be so much other stuff. You could be a SF Green Beret, do 20 years and retire and be like, hey, your family's taken care of. It's what is success for you, and don't look at success as those small microcosms of I have to be a millionaire and make it rapid, or I have to be on the basketball court or football field and make that happen. And if I can get you to change that perception, then guess what happens when you're done? Because if I can get you to think about, I want to get into real estate and flip houses. Well, if you make it in pro sports, you got a lot more money to invest in real estate, my man. So if I can get you to change your perception on, hey, what's success, then guess what I can do? Like, that's great, but we need to also be focused here, because if you make all your money from 18 to 27, you make the majority of your money, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Yeah, you made enough money to live on like that, but once you start making more money, what happens? You get more bills. You get more expensive bills. And now that my bills are more expensive, I ain't bringing in money like I used to. Now I'm 35. Well, you ain't getting that kind of pro money for almost 10 years, bro. What did you do to make that revenue while you're not working?
And then whenever you do get it, find a way, real estate, stocks, whatever, to make that money continue to work for you. Because you'll notice a lot of these guys that go pro, I don't remember the statistics
80%.
right now. 80% of them are broke by the time they
35 years after.
And it's ridiculous, because I always tell folks, like, if you look at professional sports, they're predominantly black. So how is it that we're still one of the poorest race in the country, right? Because we make all this money and we don't know how to invest it properly. We just give it right back to the Louis Vuittons, to the Mercedes, we give it right back to them, because I can tell you right now, if everybody right now that's playing sports, if they figure out how to do real estate, and every time that big contract comes in and they just go buy multifamily or whatever, like this country would probably look a lot different.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I would tell a kid. Like if it was me going back, I would have said, "Hey man, pick something in college you actually want to do.
Yeah.
Like think about what you want to do if this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not telling you to change your goal. Still go for that.
Yeah.
But have something that's a plan.
Yeah.
An actual plan where whether that goal succeed or not, I still need you to finish college.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you turned pro after 2 years of college, that's cool. Still get your degree in that marketing thing. Because once you end at 32, you may want to be on ESPN talking.
Yeah.
You may want to be on this, doing that. You may want to do your own. So you got to understand, like, hey, that money can last you for a long time. The problem is when we're that young and we have money, we don't understand.
No, we don't. And I think we all were there once, because I always tell the story of like my first real estate bonus. I think it was like $20,000, man. I was in Iraq. I was a PFC. I came back. I had the Lincoln Navigator.
Yep.
I had the 26s. I had TV.
Yeah.
I was so dumb. Now I look back at it, I'm like, Jesus, man, I could have bought Apple with Apple. Apple.
I could have invested. I could have did it. Like, I'll be honest with you. I was driving yesterday, and this is a side note. I was listening to, Bud Light's having a bunch of issues.
Yeah.
And the stock is dropping. And I was like, should I invest in Bud Light right now? Because I was like, well, they were the #1 beer company in the world at one point. So I get, like, I disagree, but I also know, like, people are going to drink.
Yeah.
So, like, so what do I want to do here? But at 18, am I thinking that?
No, none of us are. And the ones that rarely are is because they had the that generational knowledge passed down to them.
Well, okay, so to be totally honest, I think the ones that are is because you had, and I'm not taking anything, and I tell my wife this, I'm not taking anything away from single mothers. I'm saying a mother can raise a boy. It takes a man to raise another man.
I agree.
And I think that's where we lose it. It's like most successful sport athletes that keep their money going, you look, a lot of them have fathers in their lives that be like, yo,
do this.
Hey, I gave you these left and right limits and you started going too far, and now I'm going to pop you in the head like, yo, boy, get back on the board. Yeah. Like, hey, dude, you need to be doing this now. Or you had an older brother or older sibling, like even someone older that's already made all these mistakes that is like, hey, man, this is what you're going to do. Like, you look at a lot of athletes that have older, like, and I don't mean older like he's 2 years. I mean older like, hey, you got an older brother who's 15 years older than you. Yeah. He's like a father figure.
Oh, yeah.
So now, guess what? When you come home from school, he's like, hey, do your homework, dude. And he may be thinking, hey, we're trying to prep you to go pro in this sport. That's fine. I'm not saying that's wrong. But guess what? He's training that kid. He's taking that kid, making that kid go to school. Yeah. So when it's time for him to go to college, he has the grades. He has everything, and he can go.
I agree 100%. All right, so you joined the military. Yep. And now you are at basic training. What MOS were you?
I was a 14 Sierra Stinger missile crewman. See? I went to the recruiter, said, I want to go to Black Hawk Down. They tricked me into carrying a Stinger on my back. It's just basically an infantryman that carries a Stinger missile. Okay. It's air defense.
Okay. Now, where was basic training for you?
Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Okay. How was that, man? Because I always tell folks, like coming from New York City, like going to basic training, like I wasn't homesick. I was all about it. I had so much fun, but there were folks in there that were struggling. So
I came from New Mexico. I didn't even go home. So I had been away from home for almost 2 years at that point. Okay. So it wasn't about being at home for me. Going there, I would say I should have just picked infantry. Yeah. Like my mentality and the mentality of the drill sergeants who were infantry, we clicked a lot better than everyone else. And nothing's wrong with being around like the females or nothing like that. It was just different. Yeah. So it was like, hey, and then so it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard by any means. It was more mental. Yeah. And I would say more mental as in I was still had a lot of hood in me. Yeah. And it was a lot more like especially when you got other dudes from other hoods, guess what? Like, I remember almost fighting 2 dudes because, like, hey, we got into it about some stuff, and I was like, yo, dude, it turned into... So I still had a lot of young hood in me, and that was probably the biggest thing was getting that out of me.
Yeah. Which the drill sergeants, they do that.
Yeah.
Because when I went, there was 5 of us from New York City, and it was just, I was 19.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it was horrible.
You get real physically fit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those drill sergeants they got that hood out of us quick.
Yeah.
And by the end of basic training, we were exactly where we needed to be. Now was AIT also?
No, I went
at the same spot.
I went to Bliss.
Bliss. Okay.
I got bussed from Fort Jackson to Fort Bliss in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then we flew too, but we bussed and flew and then bussed into Texas.
Okay.
And there it was a lot more structured.
Okay.
It was a lot more the rooms like this, and the drill sergeants would come in, and they were a lot more structured.
I got you.
I will be honest with you, it was a lot of African American dudes in air defense.
Okay.
So it was a lot of the African American dudes, and then it was female drill sergeants and male drill sergeants, and we only lived in a male dorm.
I got you. So you got done with that. Where'd you end up getting stationed?
My first duty station went to Korea. Camp Casey, Korea. And I did a year. I remember Mentor came up, and I was like, if I go home, I ain't coming back, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So I just stayed there for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, it's the only place, truthfully, where air defense mission is. Like, you actually practice doing it. Yeah, every other place you've been, I'm basically a scout with a stinger on my back. And I will not say I was a scout, but I'm saying that's basically what you're doing. Yeah. You're going out, sitting out there, and get on the radio. Hey, do you see something? No. I mean, but the problem with Korea was we didn't have enough NCOs. So now you got Private Harris sitting there with Private so-and-so, and we work in 2-man teams. So now me and him been in the field for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. You imagine what us two being out by ourselves are doing? Yeah. I'm pretty sure, I'll be honest, they gave us a dagger. You remember those? Yeah. They gave us a dagger. I'll be honest, chances are, because they just give us a map and a dagger and be like, hey, y'all need to go over there. And I'm like,
I don't know where it's at.
Private so-and-so and Private 2 PFCs. Let's get in the truck. All right, dude.
That way.
The dagger is saying this is the GPS. The grid, we're way off. And then we just drive around, finally get to where we need to go. And we get there, and now you got 2 privates just sitting out there doing field problems, which... it was cool. You get to know people real well. Yeah. I got good experiences. Like you do a lot of not operations, but a lot of training with these South Koreans. Mm-hmm. So I got to know a lot of those dudes and change MREs and do stuff like that. It was a good experience.
Nice.
And but I didn't save no money. every payday, blowing money, going out and clubbing all night, getting lit.
So you do a year in Korea.
Yep.
Now what do you?
Now
were you up for reenlistment or
no? So
you just do a year and then
they send you back. Yeah, they send you back. Usually, I know for me, I didn't reenlist. So about 2 months into Korea, I was running. We would do runs and stuff, and I was pretty physically fit. So I was doing the runs, and about 2 months in, my first song was from Fort Bragg, and 2 months in, I knew where I was going next. He was like, hey, I was singing cadence on the runs and stuff. He was like, you're a big stinger. We like you. He was like, yo, you want to go to airborne school? I don't know shit. I'm like, yeah, I'll go. He's like, all right, cool. You can go to airborne school and then Bragg. Yeah. And I didn't know, DA and calling up to branch and all that. I didn't know all that. No. First sergeant did it all. Yeah. So 2 months in, I was like, I'm going to airborne school. From airborne school, I'm going straight to Fort Bragg.
Nice. How was airborne school?
Airborne school was easier. It wasn't that bad. Other than it's just learning how to fall. Yeah. So I went to airborne school, and at the end they pinned my wings on me, and the cadre. I remember the instructor looked at me. He's like, "I don't know how you made it," and I was like, "I don't either," because I was like, "Dude, I was not. I was like, I didn't get hurt. That's all it was." My first jump in airborne school. Have you ever seen someone leave the door?
Okay. Without being told to go?
No, go, and then he jumps. And so first jump in airborne school, they had a cadre going with us, right? Mm-hmm. And they were doing a racetrack. Yeah. So and I didn't know the term, but they're doing a racetrack. Well, I'm sitting across from the door of a C-130, and I'm looking out the door, and the cadre gets up. They're like, ready? And he's getting his jump, I guess his jump. And they're like, go. And so fucking fast. It was like he went like boom, I was like, and I guess my face said, "Oh hell no!" right? So they get up, they're like, "1 minute," right? And we're standing up, they're like, "Hook up," and I hook up. And the cadre looks at me and he's like, "It's gonna be okay, airborne." Cause my face, I was like, not jumping. The hell with this. Did you see how fast that dude disappeared? Like this thing got to go like 1,000 miles an hour, dude. That dude was like, "Go!" I was like, "Oh hell no, that don't look safe."
I think we all have the same experience.
Yeah.
And don't worry about that. I cuss on this channel all the time. Because like I always joke, like Airborne School was probably my hardest school.
Really?
Yeah, because when I came over from Haiti to New York City,
got it.
I had like a really bad turbulence incident take place, and I was 9.
Yeah.
So it scarred me, right?
Oh, got you.
But it was a means to an end. I
Yeah.
had to go to Airborne School to get to the Q course, so I went. But dude, every jump, night jumps.
Yeah.
It was like, oh god.
Yep.
Oh god, all of them. You know what I mean? But
and count and hope the chute opens.
I remember while we're on the topic of Airborne, we were doing an operation with GSB over 3rd Group.
Okay.
And the jump master's up there going through his procedures, and this kid was so scared. I was the assistant GM. This kid was so scared. He's standing at the door, and the jump master went, "Stand by," and he took off. And we're looking at each other like, "Holy crap!" Like we're like, "Oh god!" I hope he been on the jump zone.
It's go time.
All right, so you go to Airborne School.
Yep.
You get to the 82nd. How was life over the 82nd for you?
The best thing I would say was really disciplined. Like I got lucky. I had some really good first sergeants who had been to like almost everyone in my company had been to Iraq already twice. So like even like the E3s and E4s had just come back from Iraq. So like everyone had experience in combat operations, and it was more like basically it was patrolling. That's all they did in Iraq was patrolling. So it was like, hey, they had all that experience in patrolling, all that. So that's all we basically started doing was patrolling and convoy escorts, convoys and stuff. We trained that nonstop. Yeah. And then it was real discipline, as in like, back when I was coming up, you just get smoked all the time. Yeah. So it would be like silly stuff all the time, just nonstop getting smoked. And it was the best thing for me. Yeah. It made me more disciplined as a soldier. Yeah.
Now, leading up to this point, this is what, 2002-ish,
2003?
Yeah, so, because I came in 03, so you came in around the same time
as
before. So now, leading up to the point now where you're at the 82nd, you came in at what, 18, 19?
20.
20. Now, do you think the military has, as far as discipline, as far as giving you some other values and characters that you were missing growing up, did that military kind of help fill those gaps, or?
Yes. So I would say, and it's probably going to sound weird, or tell me if it makes sense. Like I said, I didn't have really a father figure and that stuff. The military taught me discipline. Yeah. Taught me like, hey, like, you know how like this is like you tell your kid like you will do X. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I don't go do what I said. Yeah. Like the military gave me that and gave me that structure and gave me that understanding. Like, you look, things sometimes just have to get done regardless of how you feel. Yeah. Like, I don't feel like it. I don't care that you don't feel like it. It still has to happen. Yeah. Like, and it gave me a lot more of that structure for my life. Yeah,
I agree. So you're over the 82nd, clearly enjoying it. What made you want to jump ship from the 82nd over to SF? How did that take place?
So I was like, I'm getting out. I'm done with the Army. I was over it, right? I was like, this is nothing like Black Hawk Down. I was like, this is not Black Hawk Down at all, right? So I was talking to a guy, and he was like, you should try out for SF. And I was like, what's SF, dude? Right? So I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So he takes me to the recruiter. Recruiter's talking to me, and I could see in the recruiter's eyes he had seen something. Like you know, you look in some people's eyes, you're like, oh, this dude is like, he don't have like he's dead to the world. Like he ain't got a soul. So I'm talking to him, and I'm like, he's seen something, right? So I was like, will I deploy once the war's over? And he said, yeah. And I was like, all right, I'll try it.
Yeah.
So I go to Iraq. I come back from Iraq. The next month, I take a PT test for selection. Like I did a whole year in Iraq just training up for going to SF. I was like, okay. And I just trained up every day. Like I would say I lifted 5 to 6 times a week. If we weren't on a mission, like we really do overnight missions out there. It's like 80-second dudes. Yeah. We weren't doing overnight. We did convoy escorts, PSD, and patrols. And guess what? Nothing was overnight. So every night I'd be like, okay, going to the gym. If we stayed at the embassy or did something different, I'd be like, hey, they have a gym here? Yep, go to the gym. Okay, get on the treadmill. Dude, I was like, I'm training so I trained for a year straight. I went on like a crazy diet where all I ate, and half of it was a bet, but the other half was like I ate chicken breast and rice for lunch and dinner every day. Nice. 2 chicken breasts and rice. And it got to the point where I was putting ketchup on the rice. Just to make it taste different. But I was like, I am planning to go for this. Yeah. And if it's not setting me up for this, I don't want it. And in Iraq, I won't say I had so much belief in myself, but I even re-enlisted as an air defender for 6 years. Yeah. So it was either make it in SF or be doing a job I didn't want to do. Yeah. So I didn't have a plan B. It was like, I am going.
Now, and I'm glad you said that, because a lot of these young dudes, they'll reach out to me and they're looking for me to validate their plan Bs, right? Yeah. So they'll reach out to me through Instagram or the Discord and they'll say, hey, if selection doesn't work out, do you think this is a good option? And I don't necessarily get upset at them, but I always tell them, like, hey, if you already have a plan B in mind, don't even bother going to selection.
Because you're going to get tested at some point and go to plan B.
Yeah, and plan B is going to sound real good when you're out there.
Yeah.
So now, the physical aspect of it, that's easy, right? You know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to ruck, run, and you're going to do limb nav.
Yep.
Everybody could train those. Now, mentally, how did you prepare yourself for selection? Because you mentioned that if it wasn't going to help you at passing selection, you didn't do it.
Yeah.
How did you work through the mental aspect of it, getting ready?
You know the book Get Selected?
Yes.
Yeah, so I read that book. I
think that's all there was out there.
Yeah, that was it. That was it back then.
There was no YouTube channel. There was nothing.
And they sold that in a PX. Yeah, so that's how I got it in Iraq. I went to the little local PX, bought it. And so I was looking at that, and then mentally, I'll be totally honest with you, I would say it wasn't really a mental thing. I function more off of I guess fear. So that sounds bad, but my fear was like, I just can't let people be better than me. I can't let you beat me. I can't. And so it was more like, hey, I got to go work out because I got to do it. And then when we got to selection, it was more like, hey, we don't have hey, you're not wearing your Ranger tab and you're not wearing this, but those 12 dudes are from Ranger Bat. Yeah. This happens, that happens. So when you're on a ruck, I'm running, and I'll be honest, and a guy will pass me and I'll look, I'll be like, okay, that guy's in Ranger Bat. They're all right behind me. Yeah. And that was my just keep running. Just keep running. I can't, because don't get me wrong, it ain't like I was first on everything, but I was like, I cannot let these guys just catch me and beat me. So that's what kept me moving. I'm just like, okay, he just passed me. Okay, I got to keep running. I just got to keep moving. Yeah. And then I look at the next guy and it was like, catch him. Yeah. And then I catch him and I'd be like, okay, now I need to leave him. Yeah. Now I got to find something in my heart to leave him.
Yeah. And I like that you said that, because when I went to selection, I had a similar process. Yeah. On every run, every time I passed somebody, it was like, oh, my chance of getting selected is better than that. Yeah. And that just kept me, that motivated me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Is me passing other dudes and outperforming them during week 1. That's what got me past that phase. I literally left it all out there, because every time I pass somebody, I mean, it's not necessarily a big move. That's what I needed to motivate me at that time. Whatever that guy needed, he clearly didn't find. You know what I mean? I'm like, yep.
And if he would have, but here's the question: if he would have kept pushing to not let you pass him, now y'all would have just pushed each other. Yes. So it would have just been that. Yeah. And the thing is, I would say, is that a mental advantage? I don't think it was I didn't do it consciously. Hey, I'm gonna try, but I just knew okay, I see a guy. Yeah. Okay, I gotta catch him. Yeah. And then I would run to try to catch him. And then I catch him and I'd be like, okay, keep his pace. All right, I see someone else. I'm like, I need to leave him.
Yeah.
I need to leave him.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, some dudes didn't work.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, damn, I may not get picked, man. I gotta keep moving. Like, but for the most part, it worked out.
Yeah. And that's a good strategy because it keeps you out of your head, right? Because you're focused on grabbing that dude. You're not worried about, man, how many more miles do I have to do? Because you're just worried about catching that dude.
Yeah.
Now, did you have any issues getting to selection as far as GT score, as far as recruiters not helping you out? Did everything just go smoothly? Like you got back, put a packet together, and then you were at selection?
So only issue I had was the GT score.
Mm-hmm.
I had to retake the ASVAB and get a higher GT score.
Yeah, I had New York City school system.
Yeah.
I had to do the same thing.
Hey, that was the only issue I had.
Yeah.
Other than the GT score. I took the little fast class, and I got my GT score up to 111, 112-ish. And then, it was like a 112. I got it up that high, and then I was like, all right, I can do whatever I want.
Nice.
And I went for it. And my command, honestly, like I said, I got back from Iraq. So by the time my command knew I was leaving, like I took my PT test for selection while we were on leave. So like when we came back to work, I was like, hey, next month I'm going to SFAS. And they were like, when were you going to tell me? And I'm like, I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
Like we just got back from leave.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now. You knew I was going to do it at some point. I worked out for a year in Iraq.
Yeah.
You knew I was doing that. So now it's a surprise? No.
Yeah.
So, and my command didn't get in the way of that. When I got back and I was selected, then they started doing stuff to me.
Yeah.
Like I took drug tests. Like I got literally, as soon as I got back, the day I'm back, I'm doing piss tests because I'm like, really, I'm doing drugs now?
Yeah.
They're putting me on like every jump that comes up. I'm jumping out of planes. And I'm like, look, dude, you're going to hurt me at some point. I'm trying, I'm leaving. Yeah. So they started doing little stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's just to be spiteful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I always tell the dudes that reach out, like, hey, more than likely somebody in your chain of command, they probably went and didn't get selected.
Yep.
And now they're just hating. So now let's talk about SFAS because I like to break it down into weeks.
Phases,
right? Yeah. So phase 1, which is admin week, because when you went through, it's probably the same as I went through because you went through in 2007.
I want to say 7, 8.
7. Yeah. So I went April of 2008, and it was admin week, land nav, and then team week, which I think is the
same thing, same concept.
So how was week 1 for you?
So we did all our testing, our PT tests, everything. Did your 2? I think it was 2 rucks, 2 runs.
Yeah.
2 rucks, 2 runs. It wasn't bad. It wasn't physically demanding, but I had trained for it.
Yeah.
So I was prepared physically.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. Physically, I mean, let's be real. Yeah, was I tired? Yeah. But everyone's tired.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna wear on everyone. It's designed to make sure everyone gets tired.
Yeah.
If you don't get tired, it's like they need to revamp the course, right?
Yeah.
So by the end of week 1, I was good, but it wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
It's like I always tell guys when they ask me, I'm like, look, dude, I'm just a regular guy.
Yeah.
If you put in the work and prepare yourself, it's totally doable.
Oh yeah.
It's not one of those like, oh, I'm the deal. Some guys like to try to pretend that.
No.
I'm like, no, dude, prepare yourself. Because if you go unprepared, you will get tested.
Yeah.
Like a lot of dudes quit. A lot of dudes don't want to be there because they weren't physically ready for the test.
Yeah, because week 1, you could definitely train for.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is. Doing week 1, they're just assessing how much work you put preparing for the first week.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yep.
At the end of week 1, do you remember how big your class was and how many was left? Towards the end of week 1.
I want to say we had a really big class. It was back in the days when they were doing like.
I think mine was 400.
Yeah, it was like 3 something. Yeah. And then by the end of week 1, we were down to maybe 2 something.
Gee, so almost half of the class.
Yeah. By the end of week 1, we were down to like 2 something. Yeah.
Now week 2, land nav. Did you already know how to land nav? Or
by that point, I was a private land navving on my own in Korea, man.
Oh.
So by the time,
got that dagger.
So by the time I got there, I did Iraq. I did a bunch of stuff. So my land nav was pretty good.
Okay.
So I was able to get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made it through.
Okay, so now at the end of land nav, how many dudes did you guys actually have left?
At the end of land nav.
Because that gets a lot of dudes.
Yes, it did. It got. Remember I told you the story? The guy talked me into going.
Yeah.
He quit during land nav.
Did he?
He quit in land nav with me. I was like, "You're the reason I'm here." Like, he quit. And I was talking to him. He was like, dude, I didn't find my points. And I'm like, look, bro, you're good. Yeah. Relax. And he's like, I didn't find my points, man. They're not gonna pick me. I'm like, dude, chill.
So did he he
self-selected himself.
Yeah.
He got himself. I don't know if they would have picked him at the end.
But you never know.
Exactly.
It's your job to keep going. You're not assessing. You're just there to perform.
And he did. He assessed himself and quit. So no. So by then I'd say we were down to like 170.
170.
Yeah.
Oh man. Now so as far as week 2.
Yep.
And week 1. Do you have any advice for the dudes watching that are looking at going to selection before we leave week 2 and week 1 behind and go into team?
Yep. Yeah. So I would say physically prepare yourself. Okay. Cardio is going to be key to the first 2 weeks. Physically prepare yourself and understand that it's doable.
Yeah.
It's not something that's unattainable, but you need to surround yourself or get people that are, when you're physically preparing yourself, like-minded.
Yeah.
That can push you during the training phase.
Yeah. And then once they're at selection, because you said your buddy got in his head and he actually screwed himself over. Anything for the audience as far as, hey, how to manage that mindset? Like, what got you through week 2? Was it just the fact that you were confident in your skills? Or did you ever have any
I had doubts. I had doubts throughout the whole Q course too. But I had doubts in selection the whole time.
How did you overcome that?
I had an opinion. Remember I said no plan B. So it was either, hey, you're going to tell me I didn't make it.
Yeah.
That's how I go with it. Like, you're going to tell me I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
You're going to have to tell me I'm not good enough and give me a reason why I'm not good enough.
So I can have something to work on.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, is that most people are self-assessing, but guess what? They're looking at everything. They're not just looking at one thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, are you completing everything? And they can fix that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's what you want to go there with. I would say practice line nav, have your cardio on point, and be ready physically so you can recover from the days. And then when you get to line nav, don't stress yourself. If you're not first, don't worry about being first. If you're not, don't be last, but don't worry about being first. Yeah. And just I'm going to perform to the best of my ability every day.
Leave it all out there.
Yeah, and that's something I tell anyone: give your all, and then if you don't make it, at least you know. And that was more my approach. Like, look, you're gonna tell me I didn't make it. Yeah, you're gonna tell me.
That's a good approach to have. Now let's move into week 3, team week. How was that for you?
That sucked.
Oh, it sucks for everybody.
Yeah. It physically. I'll be honest with you. Physically, I don't think it's anything you can do to prepare for that.
Yeah.
Obviously, be in good shape and be ready, but it's no way to get yourself ready to find out how to move a car by holding a log and 2 dudes. It's no way to do that training wise, right? So, team week sucked. I had a good team, which was lucky for me. Yeah. Had a good team. We had 2 dudes who didn't make it on my team week that I remember. One of them quit, and the other one we peered out. And even the cadre knew he was like turd. Like the cadre would tell him. Yeah. Like during team week, like, yo, you're screwing everybody. But other than that, everyone was carrying their own weight. Yeah. And that's what, at least for team week, that helped. And that's the biggest thing, is you can't be everyone knows everyone ain't gonna perform at everyone else's level, but you can't have to be carried.
Gotcha.
That's
at least hold your own.
Yeah, like, hey, I need to know I can count on you to at least carry your end of this log. I don't need you to be able to carry the whole log. I'll do my half, but I need you to count on you to do your piece. Just do your piece, man. And that was the biggest thing I learned in team week, was that do your piece. Gotcha. Like, if you can accomplish that, and if you can do more, great. Yeah. But I need you to be able to do at least that.
And then, so the guy that got paired out, what exactly was he doing? Was he just being
he just physically
dirtbag?
Yeah, he physically couldn't carry his piece. Okay. So it would be like, hey, I remember, this is when I remember, because we were getting, like, you were with these guys every day. Like, but you get to know each other. And I remember we were carrying logs, and it was 2 logs. You were rucking, but it was like a log from you to your buddy. Yeah. And it's like, these logs. Well, he couldn't carry his. That's what I meant. Like he couldn't carry his log.
Yeah.
So,
and as a team, you still got to accomplish the mission.
Oh yeah,
you can't just leave that log.
Yeah, so we still had to get his log there.
Yeah.
So it was like, dude, and he was walking on the side of us while all of us were doing the thing.
Oh, dude,
and the cadre would just be like, "Yo, you're screwing everybody,"
yeah.
and he'd be like, he just couldn't do it. And it's not that I was like, he was physically, So physically, fitness is a key, but the key was. He wasn't willing to push himself to that level to make sure we all got done.
Yeah.
And it was like, look, dude, like all of us are sucking.
Yeah.
Like none of us, if you gave us a choice, none of us would carry this long, but we have to get this done.
You have to get it done.
And people would like be losing it on them and stuff, and like in our team, like people would be like, like we take a break and they'd be like, yeah, he's over here, and I'd be like, yo, bro, and I remember me and this one guy got close. I was like, chill, man, chill. And he was like, nah, Dave, nah. And I was like, hey, man, you gotta chill out, bro, because I was worried that he wasn't gonna get picked because he's flipping out on this dude because I don't know.
That actually happened to me because we had a dude like that doing team week.
Yeah.
And I lost my temper, and I dude, I'm talking about like we're on the airfield, almost back to base camp.
Yeah.
And this dude was just, and we were pushing. We had to build the triangle it had like a big old thing on it.
Yeah.
And we were all pushing, and I'm talking about everybody sucking, and this dude was just sandbagging, and I lost my shit.
Yeah.
But then Kadri came up to me. We called him Buzz Lightyear. Pickney. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
And he came up to me. He was like, "Hey, like, do you think you've been given 100% throughout this entire iteration?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I have." He was like, "It doesn't matter. Like, you shouldn't be yelling at him because it's not your job to assess." And after he did that, he got in my head. So he started to fuck with me. I was like, oh man, did I just
hurt yourself?
Did I just hurt myself? You know what I mean? So I understand 100% why you're trying to calm your buddy down.
Yeah, because I always like, okay, this is a game.
Yeah.
And I get it, but I'm like, I'm not going to lose it on you. Yeah. But if we were not here, I would lose it on you.
And we got pinks and blues coming.
Yeah.
You're definitely getting yours.
Yeah, I know how I'm going to fix this.
So what would you say got you through week 3 as far as because at that point you're physically beat down.
Yep.
You're hungry, you're tired, everything hurts. What got you through week 3?
So same concept. It was just like I don't know. I just was on that. Hey, you going to tell me I didn't make it?
Yeah.
I remember once we were pushing up. We had just started the team week. And it was the dude who quit was talking to me and another guy as we're moving the apparatus, and he says, "Hey man, my foot's killing me." And the dude's like, "Okay," and he's like, "Should I quit?" And he looks at us and says that, and the dude looks at me and I look at him and I'm like, and the dude looks at him, he's like, "Yeah, you should. You should quit."
If you're looking for me to tell you not to quit, then you should probably quit.
Yeah. So, and that was my thing. Is like, just don't quit.
Yeah.
You'll get more satisfaction in the end if you know you gave it your all and you didn't make it. Yeah. And guess what? They're going to give you like your assessment. Like, this is why you didn't make it. Yeah. And as long as they tell you can come back, fix that and come back.
Yeah. I got you.
Like, I would rather that happens than me quit.
And then now you're left with that regret.
Yeah.
Because once you quit, you get NTR, never to return.
Yeah.
And now you're stuck with that the rest of your life.
Yeah. That could be it. Or you never know why. Like, we were going to pick you, but you quit.
Yeah. You never found out.
Yeah, you didn't even get finished. So, hey, you don't know. Yeah. So don't assess yourself. Just go there, prepare, and perform the best you can.
Yeah.
And once you do that, if you put all the cards on the table and you have a flush, if I play out, hey, here's my cards, and you have a flush, your hand's better than mine, you win.
Yeah.
But guess what? If I didn't even get a chance, if I fold, I don't even get a chance to put my cards on the table.
Yeah,
you already put, once you show up to selection, I like poker, but once you show up to selections, you already pushed the chips in.
Yeah.
Like, you went all in. You're here.
Yeah.
So just go.
Yeah, might as well finish.
Yeah, like, play the cards out. Okay, I made the call. Let's do it.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. Now, so team week is over.
Yep.
And you guys are probably down to what, 100, if not less dudes.
Yeah. Like,
how was you guys' selection ceremony?
Oh, it was.
I remember mine vividly because that shit was emotional.
Yeah, it was weird. Like they call us so they did a weird thing where they kept moving formations. Like we kept doing the formation, and you're doing this thing where you're looking around the formation like, okay, he's over here. Definitely didn't make it.
As opposed to, oh, that dude was crushing it throughout the entire time, and I'm in his group. Yeah, I'm good.
So you get, but then they move you a new formation. You're like, okay, this might. And then the next formation, you're like, oh, dude, what's going on? Like, so they did that a bunch, and you go turn in equipment, you come back, they do a new formation, you go do that. Then they call you all into an auditorium.
Yeah.
And they's like, hey, congratulations, you have been selected, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, man, I don't believe this is actually, like, I actually made it through this thing and got picked. And then I was like, okay, it was wild, man.
Yeah.
It was like, it was the feeling of like jubilation, like, oh my goodness, I actually prepared myself and made it.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
That's awesome, man. Now the Q course itself, how was that experience for you?
So the Q course itself was nerve-wracking. Mm-hmm. It was like every phase I figured I was gonna fail. Yeah. Every phase.
Did you recycle any?
No, never. Not never. Like, oh, that's it. No, it was like it wasn't easy. Yeah. I thought I was gonna fail every phase, but that's just because I told you I'm on a fear kick. Yeah. So I would be like studying nonstop or practicing nonstop, whatever it was. So I would put in a lot of work beforehand, but the fact is, like every phase, I'm like, okay, I could get kicked out. Yeah. I could fail. Yeah. I could fail. And I was that same way through all SF schools. I could fail. You got 1 day left, I still could fail. Yeah. Like if one thing happens, I fail. So I went to each fail. The first phase was SUT when I went through, and that was like 8 or 9 weeks. Yeah. And that phase, I got put as the PL for both times, both of my evals. And I guess the cadre told me what I did. He was like, look, your op order, because up until that point, I'm E5. I ain't pitching no op order like that. I'm not even infantry, no Ranger school. He's like, your op order, like the mission went good. Yeah. He was like, the op order, he's like, he's told me straight up, it turned into a game because he's like, you hit everything, but it was so out of order, it started me having to jump forward and back to see. And he was like, so the next time I went, no one said you couldn't have notes. Yeah. So the next time I went, I just had like a little cheat sheet. Yeah, and just went down. Yeah, and I just went down the cheat sheet and pitched it, and then I got my go there. Nice. So that happened there. Then we got to language with my second phase. The language, I learned Indonesian originally, and then I switched to Dari in third group. So
you had Indo and they sent you to third group?
I was on EFMP. My daughter had cerebral palsy.
I got you.
So and I'll tell you that. So every phase, like I went through, and I tell you I didn't fail anything. Mm-hmm. But when I was going through, you had cadre that was your TAC when you came back from each phase.
So were you the IODA?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. Gotcha. So I come back and I'd be like, listen, and the cadre was from first group. I'd be like, look, man, I got you. I was like, I'm not going to first group. I had been in the 82nd. My daughter had already been going to Duke Medical Center. We already had physical therapists, everything. And my wife had been in the Army in Campbell. Yeah. So I was like, I want to go to fifth group. Yeah. And he was like, okay, like, no problem. Hey, write a letter. He's like, get on EFMP. I get in EFMP program. I write a letter to the Sergeant Major of SWIG. Mm-hmm. So every phase I would come back and I'd be like, look, man, I'm not going to Okinawa. Yeah. I cannot do that to my wife and kids. Yeah. Every phase I did that. And when we got to the end, they were like, third group. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm already here. I've been here for 3 years.
That works.
But no, so the next phase was language. And that was cool. I learned Indo. My wife would hold flashcards up and I would just go every night. We did that. Yeah. And I did that for the whole time. And then the next phase was MOS. And I studied like crazy for that. I was an 18 Bravo weapon sergeant. And I studied like crazy for that and really put a lot of work in trying to be a really good weapon sergeant. Yeah. And then After that, I want to say somewhere in there we went to SEER. Well, we went to SEER after SUT.
I got you.
So we went to SEER at the SUT, and you hear the stories of people crying and all that stuff.
Yeah, that happens.
The flag, yeah, that happens. Yeah, it does.
I was one of them.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, I didn't think I would, but I did. I was like, dude, this is crazy. I knew this was gonna end. Why am I crying? Right. But so we get done with that, and then I go to Robin Sage. We finish Robin Sage. I graduate.
Nice. Now I think it's interesting that you say like throughout every phase you were pretty much scared of failing, right?
Yeah, every phase.
Because that's how it is. Like you could never just relax.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of guys screw themselves over because
they think
just because they're out of selection or pass MOS. Because even now I think they give them that tab and never raise and they still have language left.
Yep.
Like guys still screw up and then end up losing all of it. You know what I mean?
Because people think they made it, and the thing for me was, you never make it.
No.
Like you're always being assessed, even when you're on your team.
Yeah.
You're being assessed. Like we're judging. You could call it assessing. I'm judging you.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm making a judge. Crabby turd. Like, I'm judging them. Right. So the reality is you're always going through that stuff. So the whole thing is like I never came at anything like I've made it. Mm-hmm. Like you never really make it.
Yeah.
You always have to keep trying to improve.
And that's a good mindset to have. Now you graduate from the Q course.
Yep.
Now you're getting ready to report the third group. Who was the group CSM? Do you remember at that time?
Peters.
Sorry, Peters. All right. So now you're reporting the third group. How was that process? Because a lot of guys are like, they're scared. They're like, oh God, I don't know what I'm getting walked into.
Okay.
So how was the reporting and then the FNG life? How was that like for you?
So I show up to third group. I go into group, and I knew what I wanted to do. I was like, look, I want to go to the CRIF.
Yeah.
And the cadre in the course, throughout the course, one of them was like, hey, it was a guy in the Bravo course. Like, hey, is there anything I ever can do for you? Let me know. And I was like, yeah, there is. Since you said that, I want to go to the CRIF.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, guy, you're a new dude. You shouldn't go to the CRIF. I was like, I don't know anything about any of it. So I'm like, I just know I was in Iraq. I met a fifth group guy who told me to go to the CRIF. I want to go to the CRIF. Right? That's what I know. Yeah. Right? So he was like, hey, no. And so he called Sergeant Major Peters. He actually knew him. Called Sergeant Major Peters. So when I showed up, it was like, hey, you're going to 2nd Battalion. I was like, okay. I didn't know that's where the CRIF was on that. I just was like, fine, I'll go to 2nd Battalion. I say the fear-wise wasn't really something for me. Okay. I didn't really fear it. Like, probably because I had enough Army experience and I really wasn't dealing with anyone. Mm-hmm. Then I went to Sergeant Major. I went to the 2nd Battalion Sergeant Major. I forgot his name. I went to 2nd Battalion Sergeant Major, and he was like, hey, talked to me for a while. Then he was like, hey, you gonna go to Charlie Company? Mm-hmm. And he said it as a question. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. Am I going to Charlie Company? And he was like, yeah, you're going to Charlie Company. I was like, am I? Like, what are we doing? And then so I go to Charlie Company, and that's when I started interacting. So I'm on the B team. My new guy experience was a little different. And what I mean by that is, so I'm on the B team, but they're in Afghanistan. So it's like 3 guys in the B team. Okay. So I show up, my wife's pregnant. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to send me down rank, but she was doing like 2 months. Gotcha. So I was like, okay. So I show up to the B team every morning. They're asking me like, hey, you know how to do PMCSs? And I'm like, yeah. Is this like the Special Forces PMCS or something?
On the seat, like the second PMCS.
Yeah, like is this like you got some different forms? And he was like, no. I was like, then I know how to do it. What is your deal, man? I'm not new to the Army. I'm new to this, right? So like that was my experience where they were like, okay, you know how to do Army stuff. The bigger issue was for me was about 4 months go by, I go to my team, and there is where the issues not being a new guy, because I was always pretty good at but my whole team was young. Yeah. So because the whole team was young, I didn't get that, you're the new dude, go over there, sit down, and shut up. It was more like, hey dude, like I remember me and AJ, we were the Bravos. Yeah. AJ was a SOPSI guy, and he had been there maybe 6-7 months before me. I was from the 82nd, so we would have like tasks. Mm-hmm. So we would write all the tasks down, and we'd be like, okay, you take this half, I'll take this half. And we would go off, and we would do all these things. And then at the end of the day, we'd come together and be like, how'd you get that done? I had to go talk to so-and-so. And then I'd be like, yeah, and then I'm like, okay, this is how I got, like, I had to turn in this piece of equipment. These are the people I had to go to and get signed, this, that. So I knew, okay, you got this purchase, how? Like, and that's what we did, like,
you guys kind of raised each other.
Yeah, every day for like 6 months, we just were like, hey, how did you do this? Yeah. And then when everyone got back from Afghanistan, a guy named Pete McIntyre, who was on the team across the hall from me, 3-2-3-2, I won't say he kind of pulled us under his wing, and he helped me out a lot. Like, he actually became like more of a senior. Like, hey, he had been there for a while, and he would be like, yo, dude, hey, I got the risk assessments. This is what, and he, forward you these risk assessments. Bring me a hard drive, just everything I got. Give me all the stuff on this hard drive, and then, okay, and then I go through it. Okay, cool, man. Thanks, man. Hey, I'm trying to do this. How about this? And then he would just help me, like, okay.
Nice. Now, so you finally made it to the CRIF. How long did that take?
6 years.
Damn, that's a while.
Yeah.
Now, so during those 6 years, did you ever, well, you in second time, so yeah, you guys were deploying.
Yep, I did
on the regular also.
3 trips to Afghanistan.
Yeah. Now, since you're a weapons guy, I'll ask you this. I don't normally ask other folks, but your first firefight, how was that? Was it like real Hollywood-ish?
No. And I know people talk all that craziness. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I was looking through a Crow system.
Yeah.
Half of what was going on, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
By the time, like, so I've got a Mark 19. I'm looking through the Crows, right? And my first firefight, I'm in the Crow system. They're like, contact, and they say the clock, 3 o'clock. I spin the Crow system over there. I try to zoom it out. I'm like, can't see nothing. I'm like, dude, where? 3 o'clock. I'm like, 3 o'clock. Yeah, that's cool, but I'm looking through the screen. I can't see crap, bro. So I'm like, all right. And then afterwards, so needless to say, I won't recommend what I did, but I did something, right, to solve this issue.
Yeah.
Right. So I did something to solve this issue, and we get back, and everyone starts talking to me, and they're like, dude, like, your truck, they had rockets flying past it, and then they were shooting at you. And I was like, huh. And they were like, yeah, man. And I said, good. I was like, I'm glad I didn't see that. I would have freaked out. Like, if all this, what you're telling me was happening, I would have freaked out, bro. I'm glad I was looking through this little screen.
Yeah, I would have lost my shit.
Yeah. And then after that, I mean, we had other ticks, and like, things would happen, and then ticks where I was on the ground, those are more, but like the first tick, I didn't even see half the shit going on, man.
Yeah, I think everybody's in the same boat, unless you're like, you walk in the house and the dude is like right there.
Yeah.
Everybody has similar experiences.
Guys who were on gun trucks, you saw more. I'm looking through a screen this big.
Yeah.
I couldn't see nothing, man. I was like, you hear popping, ping, ping. I'm like, oh.
Somebody's shooting at us. This is happening.
Yeah, you're right. It is on this side. I have no idea where.
Oh, man. So now, leading up to, so you're 6 years in, you're getting ready to go to the CRIF. Mm-hmm. You go do that. How did you, because between, I think, you and a couple other dudes, you guys are pretty good shot. Like, as a Bravo, if you can give any of the future Bravos out there any experience, like, or advice, what would that be as far as how to, because you showed up, you didn't have a senior.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You had to learn it essentially on the fly.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for the Bravos or the inspiring Bravos out there?
Yeah, advice for everyone. The thing I remember, we got my second team sergeant, Chuck Mueller, fired half the team. Fired like 7 dudes, man. He was just like boom, boom, boom. To the point one day I walk in, I'm like,
I'm ready to go, man.
Well, I'm like, am I getting fired? And he's like, no. And at this point, I'm the only Bravo. This was like 8 months going. I was the only Bravo. He's like, no, you're not getting fired. He's like, look, dude, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. He was like, the thing is, I tell you to go get something done, you will beat your head against that brick wall until it falls down.
Yeah.
That's the key. It's like, hey, dude, figure it out.
Yeah.
If like something may supposed to take, like I would tell guys, hey, when I first showed up to SF, something might have supposed to took me 20 minutes, took me 3 hours to get done.
Yeah.
And then guess what? give me 4 years, 3 years, and then guess what? Hey, that's gonna take 20 minutes. I may knock it out in 15 because I've done it. I know who the steps. I'm calling people now, like, yo, dude, I'm sending this risk assessment up right now. Sign it. Click, hit send. Like I start having a process. I know, like, it makes things easy. So don't take, because everyone has to learn. No matter what job you get, you're not gonna know it all. So what you're gonna have to do through the Q course. So once you get done with the Q course, now you learn in your job all the real stuff that it takes. And hopefully you have leadership on the team that's willing to understand if you're the only one and you don't have a senior. Even if you do have a senior and he's not good, that could set you up for failure. But if you have a senior that actually is going to put time, effort, and energy, understanding that he is training you to take his job.
So he's going to want to train you to the best of his ability.
Like I would do something like, I would say, okay, do this risk assessment. To all my juniors I've ever had, I'd be like, do this risk assessment. And we would sit, and I wouldn't do nothing. I would sit behind them, and I'd be like, I'm right here if you have a question. And I would pull the risk assessments up, my old ones, and I'd be like, now change what you need to. We're going here. And I'd be like, I sit behind them. I didn't care if it took 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever. I'm like, I'm here to guide you, but I want you to understand how to do it. Because when I'm gone, you need to know how to do this.
So you spent your entire career in third group. If you had to change anything or do it all over again, would you change anything?
Probably try to go to the CRIF sooner. I enjoyed my time in the CRIF. That was probably what I wanted to do the most, and I probably would have went sooner. That's about it. That's it.
Now let's talk about time beyond the beret, right? The name of this podcast. What's next for you? What do you currently see in your future as you get ready to transition, retire from the military?
So since January, I've been basically a contractor for Vortex Optics. I've been training military and law enforcement in CQB and shooting from snipers. I won't call it sniping. I'll call it long range shooting because we're not really doing sniping. So we're working with their snipers, working with their mostly SWAT guys, and doing flat range pistol rifle stuff. That's more of my wheelhouse, is flat range pistol rifle stuff and CQB. But I can teach long range, some long range stuff too.
Okay, gotcha. So you're pretty much going to be instructing once you're retired. You're currently working with Vortex now. Do you have your own personal side hustle that you do on your own, or?
So I do that, and I'm like, as for the side hustle piece, like I'm all about making sure giving the experience to guys and talking to them about shooting. Like I'll nerd out on shooting, so I'm all about, like, if someone wants to train and I'm not doing nothing with Vortex, I'm all about coming out to train with them.
Now, how did you get so? Because there's a lot of guys, like, they'll do their 20 years, like me included. Like I like to shoot, but I don't know shooting like you do, or I'm not as good at shooting like you are. How did you get into that niche? Is it like a Bravo thing?
No.
Or is it just something that you just gravitated towards and you just it became your passion?
So even when I was a kid, I loved guns, like little kid, and to the point where my mom took all my guns from me because they figured I was going to do something crazy when I got older. They just took them all. So I loved guns my whole life. So, and then I got to SF and they were like, hey, what do you want to be? And I was like, I realized I'm not a huge gun guy. I'm a huge shooting guy. I love shooting. So I was like, hey, man, I want to do the job that's going to shoot the most. And I figured Bravo gets to shoot the most. Kind of, right? Well, what really got it is when I went to Cephalic to be an instructor, I saw this Duskin, the Duskin 3 gun was going on at the time, and I watched it and I was like, yo, I can do that. So I was like, so I started trying to do 3 gun, and I was horrible. And I started to keep practicing, because when I say fear, I just don't want to be sucking. So the fear of sucking made me practice, right? And I got better and better and better and better and better at shooting. And it just turned into, I'll be honest, the competitive shooting, I don't think it works the same. Like, competitive shooting will make you a better tactical shooter, but being a great tactician won't make you better for competitive. So it's a difference, right? Fast and accurate is fast and accurate. So that's the thing in competitive. Being fast and accurate is fast and accurate. So we're doing that, and I picked that up, and I've been doing that for 4 years now. And I just kept shooting, and dry fire, and didn't buy a book and started reading about shooting, and just dove so deep into shooting that it's crazy, man. Like, I mean, you think about it, like you spend, and let's be honest, you spend 15, 20 minutes a day doing anything, just thinking about it, dude, you'll be better. But if it's your passion and you really something you want to do, then you'll just, like, I'll donate like an hour, 2 hours. My wife will get tired of me just watching YouTube, looking at different gun videos and stuff, and be like, okay, that's coming out new. Man, I wonder how that shoots. Like, I've broken guns just because I shoot them, and I'll be like, I wonder how they made that happen. Yeah. And then I take it apart because I want to know, like, how did you do what you did? Yeah. And I take it apart, and then I can't get back together because I'm like, dude, okay, I see what you did. Are you making the sear disconnect quicker? Is the sear connecting faster? Are you getting less gas? Did you lower the bolt? Did you lower the weight of the bolt to give you less gas, so now you get your 2 inches of dwell time on the bolt? Like, those things. Like, okay, how light can we make the bolt and still give the gas? How much gas would it require? Yeah. Hey, your buffer, what's the good weight for your buffer? Hey, you got your H2 buffer, you running a 3-ounce buffer, you cutting it and I've known people to cut a buffer and actually put the weights in themselves.
Jeez.
So, you know, like, hey, this is the perfect amount. So I'm saying, like, I'll nerd out and get on, like, okay, but why? So when you did that, what did you adjust? Mm-hmm. So I'm learning all, and that, when I got into competitive shooting, that's when I really learned guns. And I'll be honest, because you're trying to dial everything out that's not needed. Yeah. So you're like, hey, why would you shoot that? That's just more gas than needed. Mm-hmm. You just want it to barely run. Yeah. Barely. It gotta be. When I say barely run, it has to be consistent. Mm-hmm. So it's not gonna not run. Yeah. But you don't want to have it where it's like our guns in the military, over gas, where hey, suppressor's on, suppressor off, it shoots no matter. No, I don't need all that. Yeah. I need it. Okay, this is how it's always gonna be. I'm always shooting this ammo. What will give me 2 inches of dwell time? That's all I need. Nice. I don't want nothing extra. And that's what you're dialing guns down to.
Yeah, you definitely got it down to a science. Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, I don't know what you're talking about right now. But so it's a passion for you.
Yeah, that's my passion.
Man. So that's good that you've found a calling beyond the beret, and you're actually living your dream or your purpose, I like to call it.
I would say, my purpose, honestly, is I want to be able to touch as many law enforcement military personnel as possible and give them the knowledge I gained. Yeah. Like, and that don't mean any knowledge I've gained. Yeah. But the flip side is I'm always learning too. Yeah. So he who teaches learns, but he who learns is now obligated to teach.
That's awesome, man. Because again, at least for me on this channel, I always preach like, hey, all that knowledge we have, 20 years, mm-hmm. like, what are we going to do with it? Yeah. I mean, if we don't share it, it's just going to stay up here and eventually die with us. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Some guys don't want to share it because knowledge is power. Yeah. I'd rather you and me line up and go out to shoot a competition, and you know everything I know, and now it's actually
an actual competition.
Yeah, like, are you better than me, man?
Yeah. As opposed to you're going against somebody that doesn't know. Yeah. That's amazing, man. Where can the audience find you, Dave, if they want to reach out to you for whatever reason?
You can reach out to me on Instagram at dharris3122. You can hit me on Facebook at davidharris3122. And then my email is davidharris3122@outlook.
Yeah, and Dave trained, so if you need some additional love behind the gun, reach out to him. And again, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Dave won't be a stranger on the channel. I'll try to bring him back to do some stuff on the range. So until next time, guys, take care of yourself.